Hey guys, how are y'all doing out there? Just trying to keep up with the vlogs here and keep firing off videos as much as I can. So I don't have a ton of time here, but I thought I'd just try and fire off a quick video while I make my steak breakfast here. So yeah, what should I talk about today? I was thinking about talking about these masks that everyone's wearing and just how it's a little bit of a symbol of you giving up your liberties. It's a sign of your servitude to the governments, how you're giving away your power. And it's also basically you've been silenced. So it's like a muzzle. They're putting a muzzle over your mouth because you don't have a say anymore. All your liberties, all your freedoms have been given away. You're giving away your livelihood, all of your freedoms and your dependency, your self-reliance. You're giving it all away to the government. You're basically looking to them to save you because you're living in so much fear that you're putting all of your faith in these governments. You think they have your best interest at hand. Of course they don't. This is a big pandemic. All they want to do is crash the economy. They want a reason to force you to shut down your business. They want a reason to print more money so that they basically can cause a bunch of bankruptcies by forcing these businesses to close. And then they're going to come in with all this money they print and they're going to buy up all the businesses with this money that they're essentially counterfeiting. So I know it sounds crazy, but this is actually what's going on here, and it's wild. No, I don't know, not too many people see it. A lot of people think that these government officials have their best interest at hand, but obviously they don't. Just look at the bank, the M1, M2 money supply that these governments are printing, and then they're buying up all of the assets. So here in Canada, they just announced that with this phony money they're printing, now they're going to come in and start buying up hotels and motels and stuff, and in the name of buying them up to help the less fortunate. And I mean, it sounds good on the surface, but we all know the truth. This is just another move towards communism. They want to own everything. They want you completely reliant on them. They want to roll out this UBI, universal basic income. So it started as CERB here in Canada. Now they're rolling it out to some kind of more lax version of the employment insurance that more and more people are entitled to. So basically they're just handing this money out for free. They've pretty much shoved the debt down everyone's throat. They've maxed people out on debt, and now they're basically out of new victims. So now they have to give the money away to keep this whole Ponzi scheme afloat. So that's the point we're at. You don't even have to work for the money now. They're just giving it out. And this is a new trend you're going to see. I don't think there's any turning back from this point. And the governments are going to own everything. They're going to be the buyers and lenders of last resort. And you'll see everyone's giving up their businesses. They're giving up their livelihood. They're giving up their self-reliance because everyone's getting lazy and they'd rather just sit on the couch and collect a CERB check. So it's not a good picture, you guys. The Canadian economy, the US economy are all in big trouble here. Basically, we have major economic turmoil. We have the big collapse because of COVID. So all these businesses are forced to lock down. I think the numbers in the US were something like 60% of the businesses are not going to reopen. So you can just imagine what the fallout of this is going to be. I mean, right now it hasn't been as bad just because basically they're handing out a bunch of free money, which is, and they're deferring mortgages. So this has kind of been keeping things afloat, but that's all coming to an end pretty soon here. And once that comes to an end, that's when we're really going to see the true impacts of this on the economy. And so many small businesses aren't going to reopen. So it's going to be rough. And at the same time, they're destroying the currency. They're debasing it at record levels. So even if you are one of the ones that's still working, still able to create a bit of economic resilience for yourself, that's your dollars are getting destroyed. So unless you're smart enough to be taking these dollars and going into other assets like gold and silver and Bitcoin, stuff like that, you're basically working for capital that's inflating away. So it's really sad to see what these governments are doing and how they're basically taking away everyone's livelihood and their self-reliance. And it's going to be devastating to see what happens to all of the boomers that are trying to retire. And most of them, they're not super tech savvy, so they're not able to many of them aren't able to grasp stuff like Bitcoin. So they're all in Canadian dollars, they're all are US dollars, and they're all of their stocks they hold in their investments are also all denominated in these government fiat terms. And that's why these governments, part of the reason why they're debasing the currency at such an alarming rate, because by the time people catch on to what's going on, it's going to be too late. And a lot of these investment vehicles that the governments offer, they keep you locked in. So there's no way to really get out. And you pay huge tax penalties if you pull out early. So these people are locked in, and they're too fearful to do anything about it. So they're holding on, hoping that it's going to turn back around and that their investments are going to come back. But the reality is everything's the stock market has rebounded a little bit, but if you look at the economy, how is this going to sustain? And most of this stuff is heavily leveraged on debt. So it's my opinion that we're going to see a deflationary period here where things crash. And then we have the dollar crisis going on. We have the worst economic situation ever. We have the government's printing insane amounts of money, the stocks overvalued, all-time highs, real estate highly overvalued. So this isn't the perfect situation to be trying to retire in, and it's also really tricky for millennials and younger generation. They're just trying to get started out, and they've debased the currency so much that we have very little opportunity. Your dollar just doesn't buy what it used to. It's taking 5 times as much of the same currency to buy an entry-level home now than it did even 15, 20 years ago. So that's the kind of debasement we're looking at. We're looking at basically the dollars crashing 80% of their value in only 15 or 20 years. So let's say you manage to save 100 grand. Well, in 10 or 20 years, that 100 grand only has the purchasing power of 20 grand. So this is something that a lot of people aren't that aware of. And it's something we should all be informed of. There's a reason why they don't teach us about money in school. They don't want you informed. They want you a debt slave. They want you taking out huge amount of debts through the bank and buying into real estate. They have you brainwashed thinking that that's a win-win situation. Everyone wants in on real estate, can't lose. So they go in, they sign their life away, they sign $500,000 to $1 million mortgage, and now you're stuck trying to pay that off for the rest of your life. And we're basically, there's a good chance we're going to be heading into to a bit of a depression here. There's no telling that it will be a drawn out deflationary period like the Great Depression, but there is a chance that that will be the case. And the other scenario is that we have a short deflationary period where prices come down on some of these overinflated assets, but then we see hyperinflation because of the reaction we'll have in the markets after we see all of this phony money come into the market that the governments are printing and basically just giving away for free now. So we had in the last economic crisis, they basically just created all this money out of thin air, and they gave it mostly to the central banks, the big hedge funds and that. So it kind of stayed in Wall Street, and they, most of the money stayed at the top. But now they're realizing that's not creating the inflation they want. They want to debase the currencies because it inflates away the debt, because all these governments are in just record levels of debt. So if they inflate the currency away, what it also does is it deflates the debt. So they want inflation, but they can't get it when they're only giving out this phony monopoly money to the elite, to the higher end of this pyramid scheme. So now what they're doing is they're giving it to the lower end. So that's why we're seeing in Canada, they're giving people $2,000 a month, and that's going to start rolling out into $1,600 a month. And it's probably going to be indefinite. I think this is the start of universal basic income, and it'll probably only continue from here. And that they're hoping that by doing this, they can just destroy the dollar. They want to destroy its purchasing power. So that's why I believe that the elites, they're not dumb. These people, they have think tanks. They know what they're doing. So it's a pre-planned thing where they want to destroy the economy. They want to take away your businesses. They want to destroy the currency. And what that does is it'll inflate away their debt. And then it doesn't matter to them because they can just print more of the money. And then they can come in and buy up all the businesses, all the homes, all the land, all the fresh water, all the oil, all the gold, all the mines. It goes on and on and on. And here in Canada, it's basically a China takeover. China is behind the scenes. You can tell if you follow the money, you can follow kind of what's going on in the political landscape. They're moving more and more towards socialism, communism. They want to basically, the plan, in my opinion, is they want to go digital. They want to destroy cash so that they can tax and trace every one of your transactions. And then they'll, after that, once they have you locked into the currency, they're going to go negative. So they'll charge you an interest rate if you manage to be one of the fortunate few that managed to get ahead a little bit and save a bit of money. Well, you'll have to pay for that. They want you in debt and at the mercy of the governments. They want you in bread lineups. They want you waiting for these little government handouts so that you're 100% at the mercy of them, because then you're fragile. You have no resilience in your life. You're basically a debt slave who is totally at the mercy of these governments, and that's where they want you. So that's their plan with that. And then destroy the currency, buy everything up, and roll out communism, socialism. And then once you're locked into that, there's no way for you to escape the currency while they destroy it. And that'll knock the rest of the middle class into poverty. And then from there, they'll roll out a social credit score like China. And then basically they can roll out just extreme communist measures where they can put out any laws. So it's really slow and gradual at first, and they'll get you, kind of warm you up to the idea. That's why people are warming up. They're like, oh, UBI, this is great. We all get free money. Oh, now I can just be the artist I always wanted to be, and I don't actually have to work hard. And oh, you know, so it looks great on the surface. So they lure you in with the dangling carrot, and then once you take the bait, then they set the hook, and then you're done. They take away your business. You have no resilience, and then they'll lower the amount of money you're getting. They'll just make it less and less, or they'll keep it the same, but the currency's debasing, so you get less and less for that money, and everyone becomes debt slaves, and then basically we're all their little slaves. And then they have this social credit score where if we're not doing exactly what they say, if we're not good little slaves for them, then they crack the whip and they basically dock us some credit scores. And then in China, what they're doing is if you lose enough of your social credit, basically what happens is then your credit card gets flagged and you can't buy food, you can't buy water, you can't pay for anything, you can't pay for transportation. So that's where it's going. If you're not going to be a good little slave, then you don't get fed. You don't get your rations for the day. And that's where this whole thing is going. That's what people I hope some more people start to wake up. The masses are walking over a cliff with their muzzles on their face, being good little slaves, living in fear. And it's just really sad to see. There's very few people that are, thriving in this environment, that are remaining positive, that are remaining resilient and strong and teaming up and not buying into this BS. It's really sad to see. So I hope more people start to wake up and come together and see the big lie that we're all being fed. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel, hit like on the video, and I'll see you in the next one.